a lot of guys don't do this, and I've seen this across the board in in my sales closing industry, where we had a lot of companies coming through the door and they're afraid to spend money on marketing. They view marketing as an expense, and marketing is the first thing they quote unquote put on pause, instead of being like, how do I spend money in my business? How do I take this money that would just be sitting in the bank getting eaten away by inflation, putting it back into the business? And the answer is they don't have aggressive targets. And a lot of the reason they don't have aggressive targets is because they choose to think more in fear, as opposed to how fucking dope your life's going to be when you have those targets and you have an income level and you can see it and feel it and taste it and smell it and hear it, how specifically good your life is going to be, right? So you want revenue targets, you want net worth targets, you want to hedge that net worth out, but you also want spending targets, okay? Don't forget and get lost in the forest and not be able to see the trees. The whole fucking point is to spend the money while still having security, right? Everything else beyond what you spend really should be for security, right? Once you get your ability to spend to a certain level, let's say you're living in Southeast Asia, Latin America, it's hard to spend, unless you're flying private, more than $25K a month, even when you're balling out at the clubs and living in the nicest places, right? So as long as you maintain that, adjusted for inflation, everything else is for your buying security. The stocks, the gold, the Bitcoin, the multiple streams of revenue, the equity in different businesses, yada, yada, yada. That's all to buy security in case of an interruption of income. But if you knew that you could do $25K a month adjusted for inflation for the rest of your life and without an interruption of income, you're good. You can spend all of it, okay? Problem is we don't know that, and there usually are interruptions for income. But that is the whole fucking point, is to get the income up to where you can have your ideal life. And your ideal life, that is, let's use the word realistic, even though I hate that word. So you're not aiming to be a billionaire, right? But you're aiming, you eventually want 10 million or whatever. But ultimately what you really want is the lifestyle of someone who can spend $25K a month. All right? And I think that's a great goal if you're moving abroad. If you're in New York, I don't know what it is, but it's more than that. So what you are doing this whole money thing for is to have the lifestyle of a guy who spends $25K a month, which is why it's imperative that you have a spending target to remind you and to be able to structure your whole life around why you're working so fucking hard. And within those spending targets, you should have exactly what you're going to do with the money. Okay, you're going to get a year lease on an ornate, luxurious condo in Bangkok for $7K a month. For $7K a month on a year lease in Bangkok, especially if you negotiate, you can get something ridiculous. The high end of Bangkok is nicer than the high end of Toronto, where I'm from, a supposedly first world country. And the value is good compared to the rest of Asia. Like, you can't get the same quality in the Philippines. In KL you can, in Malaysia, but it's just, in my opinion, it's not as dope a city as Bangkok. Bangkok is like the New York of Southeast Asia. There's 15 different cool neighborhoods you can live in, super first world accommodations if you have the budget, nightlife, food's amazing, all kinds of cool and interesting people you meet there, not just locals but expats. Super dope city, right? And you can get something very nice for $4K, but I'm talking about like ornate luxury, duplex, 4 bedrooms, private elevator, the whole bit. You can stay in the Ritz-Carlton service residence for $4K a month at the entry level, and I think it's a 1 bedroom, right? This is not, it's in the residence section of the hotel, so that it's not just a studio, and the prices go up from there. But if you're in like not a Ritz-Carlton, which is a lot of it you're paying for the name, and it's not a month to month, it's a yearly thing. 6, 7K, you can get something spectacular. Okay. Then you want to add food. I mean, food delivery, that's nothing in Bangkok. Nights out, you can pop bottles in the club twice a week, 3 times a week, live, do the most luxurious dinners, all that stuff, and do a bunch of travel around Southeast Asia easily for 25K a month and spend. But you want to see what condo you're living in, okay? You want to see what car you have. You got the Range Rover and the driver. You've got a private chef. You've got food delivery on top of that. You've got a team hitting Instagram and the dating apps or whatever to get you the most beautiful girls that you're interested in. Or you've got a team, which is the way things are moving these days, to come in, wrangle up female influencers, do highlight reel videos, blast them off on Instagram to promote your personal brand, which is what dating is becoming these days because it's so competitive, to be able to attract, the highest quality girls in that city that probably aren't even on the dating sites, right? Or to have, a team of people reaching out to girls directly through the Instagram DM while your followers start to go up and you've got all these good pictures and you've got all these, highlight reels and stuff. And, if let's say you're a family guy, you're coming with your family, okay, you can afford to send your kids to the good international schools. You can raise them in this condo in the sky, with 4 bedrooms and, they can have the most luxurious bedrooms and all the toys and everything. Or you could do a mansion on the outskirts of the city, or there's some neighborhoods where you can get a solid house in the middle, or you could be living in, this private expat community in Costa Rica, right by the beach. It's a healthy and happy type of community, total freedom, killer mansion on the beach, etc. With your family. Like it's in some senses, it's at the higher levels of spend, it's almost cheaper with a family if you're not doing all the Instagram stuff for girls or the, some kind of angle like popping bottles in the club and stuff like that. So beyond like 25K abroad, if we're talking about Eastern Europe, Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America, really the only thing you need more money for is if you're going to fly private. So like a short private flight might be like 40K or something. Although it's cheaper in, I guess, some places. If it's like Southeast Asia to Europe, it might be 150K. Okay, so you'd be going into debt for that, or you'd be going down for that. You wouldn't be going into debt because you'd still have a significant net worth. So that's the big one for going from 25K to 100K if you travel a lot. But listen, a first class flight, like if you're only traveling once per quarter, is not bad. If you're traveling more than that, but you're traveling within Asia, you can still hop on an Air Asia flight. You get premium seating. It's a small airline, but the thing is, like, the flight's only like 2 hours, right? Within Thailand, maybe 3 hours to Vietnam or something, right? It's not like a 12, 15-hour flight. So the flying private thing, is a big thing for some of my guys, because they're treated so well in the rest of their life that, like, it's kind of a shock to the system to be in the airport or treated like cattle and all these other things, even if they're flying first class. I don't think it's a huge issue though. But you're straight for 25K. Even, let's be honest, 10K is a lot, 15K, 20K.